Good day, students! I am Teacher Tonette, and I'll be your guide in Understanding Mathematics 8 lesson for the day. But first, let's have some reminders. First, stay in a quiet place so that no one will disturb you. Second, prepare your pen, paper, and self-learning modules. And lastly, participate in answering questions and activities during the video lesson. And for the content and performance standard of today's lesson, we have
Performance standard. Students should be able to formulate and solve accurately real-life problems involving linear inequalities in two variables, systems of linear inequalities in two variables, and linear functions. And for the content standard, students should be able to demonstrate key concepts of linear inequalities in two variables, systems of linear inequalities in two variables, and linear functions. The learning competency of today's lesson is to illustrate a relation and a function. And the objectives are, at the end of the lesson, the student should be able to 1. Define relation and function. 2. Illustrate relation and function. And 3. Realize the relevance of relation and function and its uses in real life. And before we proceed to our new lesson, let's have our first activity. In your paper, match the objects in column A that is related to column B. Then form some ordered pairs in the format, open parentheses, object in column A separated by comma, then object in column B, close parentheses. Example is this one. Pencil and paper. As you can see, we have the open and close parentheses and the two objects are separated by a comma. Now let's try. Now here are the objects. We have column A, spoon, mouse, charger, shoes, and ballpen. In column B, computer, socks, fork, cell phone, and notebook. Now, I'll give you 2 minutes to form your ordered pairs. Time starts now. Now let's check your work. Let's start with the first ordered pair. So what is the first ordered pair? Correct! We have a spoon and fork. How about the next one? You're right. We have mouse and computer. Third one? That's correct. Charger and cell phone. Next is correct. Shoes and socks. And the last one? Very good. We have ball pen and notebook. Are you all right? Did you enjoy our first activity? Great! Now, what can you say about these pairs? Correct! The objects in each pair are all related to each other, which is also related to our topic of the day, which is relation and function. So what is relation? In activity 1, you have formed 5 ordered pairs, and this set of ordered pair is an example of a relation. So relation is correct. Relation is any set of ordered pairs, and the symbol of a set is braces. In a relation, the set of all the first coordinates is called the domain, and the set of the second coordinate is called the range. To understand what relation is, let's have another example. For our example, think of popular love themes that you know and pair them in the format male, then female. Are you done? Then let me give you examples of love themes. First one, who are they? Correct. They are Daniel and Catherine. So we have our first ordered pair. How about the next one? You're right. We have Enrique and Liza Soberano. And for the last one, who is this pair? You got it right. We have James and Nadine Lustre. So we have now 3 ordered pairs, namely Daniel Catherine, Enrique Liza, James and Nadine. So as you can see, they are in the braces and separated by comma. And these are example of relation. Do you have any question? If yes, comment or chat down below. If none, let's move on. How to illustrate or represent relation? There are 5 representations of relation, which are ordered pair, table, mapping diagram, graph, and rule. Let's start with the first one. Ordered pair. Ordered pair is a composition having 2 values written in a fixed order within parentheses. Here is an example. We have -2, -4, -1 is paired to -2, 0, 0, 1, 2, and 2, 4. So it is written under ordered pair. And also, what we have done in activity 1 and in our example about love themes are also example of an ordered pair. Any question? Let's have the next one. Table. The table below describes clearly the behavior of the value of y as the value of x changes. Tables can be generated based on a graph and can be presented horizontally or vertically. So as you can see in the given table, we have x or the domain and we have y, the range. So you can represent our relation in a table like this. Take note, a function is a relation in which each element of the second term, or y, correspond to exactly one element of the first term or the x or our domain, meaning no first coordinate should be the same. Subsequently, a relation can be described by using a diagram as shown in the next slide. And this is mapping diagram. As you can see, our domain or our x is in the first oval and it is mapped to the second oval or the range. So we have -2 is mapped to -4. -1 is mapped to -2. 0 is mapped to 0. 1 is mapped to 1 and 2 is mapped to 2. We are using arrow to represent that the domain is mapped to the range. Take note, a function is a relation in which mapping a one-to-one correspondence and many-to-one correspondence. Let's have now the fourth representation. The fourth representation is what you are familiar with, which is the graph. So in graphing, you are familiar with this because it is a first quarter topic. So relation can be represented by a graphical representation. It illustrates the relationship of the values of x and y. And here is an example. By using any other representations, we can form this graph. So I know you are familiar with this. So we can represent a relation by graphing. But take note, a graph represents a function if and only if no vertical line intersects the graph in more than one point. And of course, if we have graph, we have now the last representation of relation. We have the rule, or you're most familiar with equation or formula. Here is an example. The value of y is twice the value of x subtracted by 5. In other words, this can be described or represented by the equation y is equal to 2x minus 5, where x is an integer from 0 to 5. So that is an example of a rule. Note that a function is a relation in which each element of the domain corresponds to one or exactly one element of the range, and the exponent of y is always 1. So these are the 5 representations of a relation and function. To summarize what function is a special type of relation. So you're right, function is still a relation, but it is special, in which every element in the domain is paired to exactly one element in the range. Thus, the set of ordered pair is a function if no two distinct ordered pair have equal first coordinate. It should be no domain should have the same value. So that is a function. Now let's have an example for you to understand or to know how to represent or illustrate these 5 representations of relation. Given the graph, complete the set of ordered pairs, table of values, draw the mapping diagram, and generate the rule. Now let's start with the ordered pair. So you recall on how to generate the ordered pair in a Cartesian plane. So let's start with the upper point. But first, you write your braces. So what is the ordered pair of the upper point? Correct. It is 0, 6. Next, correct. It is 1, 5. Then 2, 4. How about this point? Correct. It is 3, 3. Next is 4, 2. Then we have 5, 1. And lastly, we have 6, 0. From our graph, now we have the representation of our relation, which is an ordered pair. Now let's have the table. By using the ordered pair that we have formed, we can now formulate our table. So we have x are all the first coordinates 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the y coordinate 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And this is on how you formulate the table. Now let's have mapping diagram. So as the same as the table, in this mapping diagram, on the first figure, you put the x coordinate or the domain and the y coordinate or the range or the next figure. And then draw your arrows that represents that the domain maps to the range. Question about this? Now let's have the last representation, which is rule. Now, by looking on the values of y and x, or x and y, what do you think is the rule or the equation on how to solve for the y by using the value of x? When x is 0, y is 6. When x is 1, y is 5. X is 2, y is 4. Now, what is the rule? Think, think, think. You're right. The rule is y is equal to 6 minus the value of x. Now, do you have any question on how to illustrate relation and function? Are you sure? Now let's have some real-life application. Suppose you are renting a computer in a computer shop and you will pay 15 pesos every hour of rent. Your payment is related to the number of hours you rent a computer. Question number 1. How much will you pay if you rent a computer for 2 hours? How about 3 hours? Or 4 hours? Number 2 question, express each as a table, ordered pair, mapping diagram, graph, and rule. So first, you can answer number 1. I'll give you 1 minute to answer number 1. Time is up! Now let's check your work and let's answer number 1. How much will I pay if I rent for 2 hours, 3 hours, and 4 hours? So the payment will depend on the time of the rent of computers. Now, an amount of 30 pesos is paid for 2 hours, 45 pesos for 3 hours, and 60 pesos for 4 hours. Did you do it right? Very good! Now let's answer number 2. Express each as a table, ordered pair, mapping diagram, graph, and rule. So I'll give you 2 minutes to do the table, the ordered pair, mapping diagram, graph, and rule. Then we will check. Time starts now. Time is up! Now let's check your work. So this is our ordered pair. 230, 345, 460. And then we have our table. R's X and the payment is to Y. So write the hours 234 and the payment is 30 pesos, 45 pesos, and 60 pesos. Did you get it right? Very good! Now let's have mapping diagram. So this is the mapping diagram. 2 is mapped to 30, 3 is mapped to 45, and 4 is mapped to 60. And now let's have the graph and the rule. By graphing, this is the graph of our ordered pairs, and our rule is the payment will depend on the time of rent of computers. So y is equal to 15x or 15 multiplied to the value of x. This is the 5 representations or illustration of relation and function. Do you have any question? Are you sure? Okay, if you don't have any question, now let's generalize what you have learned today. What is relation and function? So relation is any set of ordered pairs and function is a special type of relation in which no two first coordinate is equal. How to illustrate relation and function? We can illustrate a relation or function by using the 5 representations of relation, which are ordered pairs, table, mapping diagram, graph, and table. And what do you think is the relevance of learning relation and function? Can we use it in real life? Yes, you are right. The relevance of learning relation and function is that it shows us the relationship between two events or variable. And yes, we can use it in real life, just like when we are renting computers, buying lands, renting bikes, and many more. And now that you understand relation and function and how to illustrate it, let's have a quiz. So, given the situations, answer the questions that follow. Given the mapping diagram below, make a table, write a set of ordered pairs, and draw its graph. And number 2, a tricycle driver that is traveling from Barangay Antipolo to town proper of San Antonio is earning 20 pesos per passenger every ride. How much will he earn for if there are two passengers from Barangay Antipolo who will ride his tricycle? How about three passengers? Four passengers? Five passengers? And then express each as an ordered pair, table, mapping diagram, graph, and rule. So I will give you 10 to 15 minutes to finish your quiz. Then please pass your answer together with your module. And that is the end of our lesson for the day. And for your assignment, given again the situation, answer the question that follows. So John and his friends went to Pundakit, Zambales to experience riding a boat and island hopping. The charge for renting a boat is 1,000 pesos for 5 people and additional 250 pesos for every additional passenger. How much will they pay for renting a boat with the additional 3 passengers? So you can use the table to illustrate your answer. Then express each as an ordered pair, of course, the table, mapping diagram, graph, and rule. So again, good work everyone, and thank you.